What's up, fellow Acty does? So, on my red van here, I just did timing belt, the whole timing belt kit, water pump, and I did a thermostat while I was down there. So basically, drained the entire coolant system on my van. So I just wanted to make a quick video to help explain how to bleed the coolant system on a van. It's slightly different than a truck. I feel like the truck is way easy. You just open up a couple bleeders on the intake manifold and what's going on here? I feel like you open up a couple bleeders on the intake manifold, let the coolant come through, and then it's done. I've done like probably 8 or 9 timing kits now. This is the first van that I've actually done. So it was a little bit different than the truck, at least for me, because if you have a van and you have a rear heater and you have an automatic, which if you have an automatic, you don't have an automatic, just ignore the automatic section. But if you have a rear heater, which I think probably most of the vans have a rear heater, I'll show you how to bleed the coolant system, because I thought I did it, took it out for a drive, and a needle started going past halfway, and I'm like, oh crap. So I shut it off, coasted to the edge of the street, and just wait for it to cool down. Drove back and tried to figure out what was going on. Well, I didn't realize that you had to bleed from the rear heater, and I'll show you. So if you have a van and you're doing your timing kit, which, like I said, this is the first van that I've done the timing kit on, and it's really not that hard. I thought it was going to be awkward, not being able to reach over into the engine compartment like the truck, but real easy. The trick, just really the trick to doing a timing kit, oh gosh, well, it's kind of hard to see now, but that plastic piece right there that gets hung up on the alternator and stuff, if you lower the engine down as safely as you can, you don't need to remove the alternator, and you can just take that plastic piece off. I mean, I've done so many now, it's just like, it's very easy, but I figured out if you lower the engine down really low, unbolt the alternator, that plastic piece will pull out and you can get it out, because that thing really gets hung up on the alternator. It's a pain in the butt. But anyways, just food for thought. Just lower the engine as low as you can, safely, of course, and you can pull that plastic thing out. Okay, so let's talk about, you've just done the timing kit. Let's say you did your thermostat and you're refilling the whole system up with coolant, and you have a rear heater. So basically, what you're going to want to do is you'll take your little glove compartment, the lower part of your glove compartment, not the glove box. The lower part out is like a Phillips head, and there's one little Phillips head that's in the trim. And then you can get access to your radiator cap. It may or may not have a plastic cover on top of the metal cover. Mine had a plastic cover on it, but you just open that up, of course. Okay, so here's what you're going to want to do. First off, jack up the front of your Acty so that is higher than the engine, because we want all the fluid to rush to the back and push all the air out of the little bleeder ports. So jack up the front end a little bit. Doesn't have to be crazy high, just again needs to be the highest point. So then what you're going to want to do is, I use Asian green coolant. Fill it all the way up to the top. Once you get to the top, come back here. Here's your bleeder ports on your intake manifold. Open those up. Air will rush out, and then all of a sudden some coolant will start coming out. Let as much coolant come out as it's just a solid stream of coolant, and then close those bleeders. Come back up to the front. You're going to see that the coolant's down low. Fill it back up again. So after you get that one done, and let's say you have a rear heater in your van, here's what you're going to want to do. They supply you with a hose. So it'll be right here. And what you're going to want to do is take this guy off, and this little cap. You're going to put your hose on that thing, on that like bleeder port there, and you're going to hang out over the edge, because if you don't, you're going to get a bunch of coolant in there that I got to try to soak up now. Put that little hose on there that they provide you, and if there's one missing, it's just a rubber hose, like 1/4 inch rubber hose or something. Put it on there, hang it off to the side, and then go back up to the front and fill up the system again. And then let it kind of rush out, and then eventually it will get back to this point and start spitting out coolant. And then once it starts spitting out coolant, quickly, take the hose off and then put the rubber stopper back on and plug it up. Okay, so you got your rear heater. You've bled up to that point now. So obviously your coolant's going to come down again. Now, if you have an automatic, this is where it gets fun. You come back here to this big giant bazooka tube here. There's a 10mm on top. Loosen that up. Probably no coolant will come out of it at first, but give it a couple seconds. You got to take it all the way off. Actually, give it like 10-15 seconds or so. Then eventually it will start to just like spout out of it, and it'll shoot some air, and then it will go away, and then it'll spout some more. And then once you get a solid stream of coolant, obviously recap it. And then you can start the van, you can start the van and leave the cap off the coolant, off your coolant fill. So you start the van, the cap is off. And so at that point, you can just kind of watch your temp gauge. Just kind of keep an eye on it. That thing's probably going to drop down in coolant a little bit. So you're going to add a little bit of coolant. And then once it gets up to about the once it gets up to about the halfway point on the temperature gauge and your coolant is full, you can put your cap back on. And then that's when you can, try switching on your heater, make sure you're getting hot air, rev it up a few times. And if it's not blowing quite hot air yet out of the vents, just kind of rev it up in the 2,500, 3,000 RPM range for a little bit. And then just making sure that the needle obviously isn't moving. And you should eventually start blowing some hot air. It won't be right away, but you will. And if it doesn't, then turn it off and then come back here and just repeat all the steps. Bleed from those guys, bleed from that guy, and bleed from the tube if you're an automatic. And that should do it. That's pretty much how I did it. And like I said, I kind of had it overheat because there was still a lot of air in the system, because I did not bleed the heater. And I don't think I waited long enough on that black tube for the automatic, because I could never get coolant out of it, but I was just being impatient. But if you let it sit, all the coolant will start to rush back to that spot and start spitting out. So hopefully that's helpful if you're bleeding the coolant on your Honda Acty van. Just make sure that you hit all those coolant spots. And yeah, the trickiest one is just the heater, because now there's coolant down in that pocket, and I got to try to soak it up, because I don't think there's like a drain plug in that thing. I got to look underneath the van. But yeah, once it's all done and you turn your heater on, you should be blasting hot air, and the needle should not be moving from where it normally sits in the middle there. And yeah, that was super easy. Asian green, that's what I used. 50-50 mix. And yeah, cool. So if you're doing your timing belt kit or whatever, it's a good time to do the thermostat. And I sell the timing belt kits, and I sell the thermostats, and I sell the thermostat gaskets, Honda thermostat gaskets. So when you put the thermostat housing back on, you have a new gasket. And I did the valve cover gasket as well when I did the timing kit, just because I wanted to take it off and kind of inspect stuff. And then you have to take the valve cover partially off anyways to do the timing kit, because you got to get it off part of the timing belt cover. But yeah, hopefully that was helpful. I mean, it's real easy. Just be patient. Let all the air get out. You'll be fine. It's not that difficult. Just work in that order. You got to work in that order, and then it allows all the air to come out. So, cool. Thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully that was helpful. Good luck on bleeding that Honda Acty. See ya.